Welcome back to Coffee, Commerce, and Cabernet.
My name is Gabi.
My name is Destaney, and we are drinking coffee for once.
Cinnamon, brown sugar, shaken espresso coffee, sort of.
Sort of. It is fantastic, and I think it is a testament to the type of day, the type of Monday we are going to have. We've been on a bit of a hiatus because one of us has incredibly exciting news to share, and I think it's really relevant to today's topic as well. So Gabi has launched a new gig. She has started a new company called Tanagra Consulting, has left the corporate world and is making a splash and already has a brand, which is pretty exceptional.
I was trying to take a little vacay. I was trying to, enjoy a mini retirement. I think that lasted a grand total of 14 days. I don't know. You put me on a ban for 60 days, and I think it took the full 90 before I fully launched something.
She took advantage of my words. I believe I said no recruiters for 60 days, and she said it's technically not a recruiter if they're recruiting me, and closed a deal.
Yeah, but that was pretty fun. So this is a little bit of our topic today. Came in from a fellow agency owner on your side, but I always think it's very relevant to chat about the different perspectives that both Desi and I come in from. You more from that entrepreneurship side, the agency ownership side, and well, I'm running into that side of the world right now, head first. But also for me, from big corporate America or up and coming in growth on the brand side, slightly different takes on what it takes to be resilient or what it takes to go through some struggles that are tough seasons. Inevitably, you're going to endure. And how do you get through that? So that's the overall theme of today's topic that we wanted to chat about.
Yeah, the specific question was, how do you stay strong and keep going when things feel hard, slow, or misaligned?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a topic we have dabbled with on the topic, right? We've talked about our childhoods and collegiate sports and repetition and kind of building that muscle. But at the end of the day, this is one that I think needs to be a bigger conversation because it does not matter where you're at in life, how successful you are, you're going to run into struggles. And I think the ability to identify where that struggle is coming from, what the misalignment is, what the friction is, and reframe it in a way that allows you to power forward is incredibly important in order to be successful, whether it's in our industries, successful individuals, or even just, dealing with the day-to-day stressors in life, because we know there's a lot of those right now.
Yeah. How do we even identify that first and foremost, that you're going through this tough season? What does that look like?
Yeah, great question. I think there's a lot of obvious ones, right? You lose a client or something goes wrong, you get a ticket, and those can be frustrating. But something that I've recognized in myself is if I wake up and have a mimosa and I am listening to the best music and I'm just having the best day and I get stopped and I get a ticket, my reaction is going to be very different than when I wake up and maybe I slept on, the wrong side of the bed and I'm cranky and then I get a ticket and then it's just a snowball effect. And I think people like to isolate and try to pinpoint some of the problems that are happening within their life and blame it. Maybe it's easy to blame it on a certain thing, but in reality, there's typically a lot of factors and variables that are inputs in your life. And this is something that has mattered a lot to me because I've realized if I do a better job of putting myself in a positive mindset, I can handle the negatives much quicker. And the reason I mention that is because it's usually not one big thing. We all like to think it's one big thing. But normally, identifying when there's misalignment or friction in your life comes down to identifying those small areas of maybe I'm struggling to get up and work for a few months. Maybe I'm just getting triggered more frequently. Those are all indicators, I think, of misalignment.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to identify those small things so you don't allow them to become the big things.
Yeah. I think for me, and this is a theme that you and I have spoken a lot about. It ties back a little bit. If you watch our Enneagram episode, you'll know I'm an Enneagram 3. And they can go through seasons of doing for the sake of doing, for others, validation, that kind of a thing. For me, there's two themes that it's been, or areas that I can identify. One is on the emotional side of things, and one's more on the operational side of things. So what I mean by that is I become far more irritable. I'm less tolerant. I could be more resentful of things that don't necessarily warrant that type of reaction, and I'm harboring it in myself. I might not be expressing it, and then I realize I've been misaligned for a while. I've been going nonstop, misaligned to something that might be what my true goal or intention, what brings me joy, or even just going through the season of, especially when you're on the agency ownership side of, I'm going to go headfirst into a tough season because it's aligned with what my goal is, because it's aligned with what my intentions are. But then you are really clear on that. And the operational side of things, of course, are a little bit easier to spot. Of, I'm losing a big client. I'm literally trying to figure out how I'm going to pay my employees this month, or you've got some sort of financial setback. Those types of things are a lot easier to identify. But they're the two different buckets. It's taken me a while to recognize more of those emotional ones, those feeling ones that are in my body and how I'm reacting and how I'm showing up at work. And someone will, chuck a spicy comment my way, and it doesn't roll off as easy as it usually does. That's when I'm kind of identifying something's misaligned. Then the next phase is figuring out, how do you use clarity to get through those seasons?
That's actually a really actionable takeaway. Even to this day, I will pull out my phone and do this in my notes app. If I am faced with something incredibly frustrating, or I can feel the tension in my chest, there's a lot going on, but I maybe can't always identify it, I will open up my notes and I'll make a little T-chart, and I'll put emotional versus logical. And to your point of emotional and operational, I will write down my emotional reactions to what I'm feeling. I'm stressed about paying my employees. I'm stressed about this client. This person pissed me off. Why didn't this person take ownership? Anything like that, I'll write down. But then I'll start writing down the operational side as well, because that always feels a little bit more tactical for me, which is, I think, a good segue into, okay, we've identified the problem. What's next? Well, you need to know how to, one, put it into your order of operations. Like, what do you actually need to fix? Is it a bad mood that I need to fix? Am I cranky? Because that's going to be very different. I'm going to step away and, go hang out with my animals. Or what are the logical things that I can do? But you can't come up with a plan without clarity. And I know that, like, when I talk to some of the men in my life, this always comes up of like, what do you mean you focus on your emotions first? I'm like, well, I need to understand what's driving this friction in me. And then I can be a little bit more actionable with how I want to move forward.
Yeah, and figuring out the prioritization of it. And that's also another thing that you and I spend a lot of time talking through. You spend some time coaching me on, as well as prioritization and clarity. And shout out to one of the best leaders I've ever worked with, Abigail Buckwalter. That is prioritization and getting clear and transparent on things within yourself. You can't do that for others and lead a team, be a CEO of a company, if you aren't that within yourself first. And for me, it was a little bit surprising, perhaps, of how many times I had to come back to what clarity meant, or what the true goals and intentions are. And one thing that we've spoken about is the pillars that resonate with us. And we set out pillars of areas that we want to be intentional in throughout the rest of the year. One of those, might be happy, and it's how we go about showing up for work. One of them is healthy, and it's, just taking care of yourself, your body, all that kind of a thing. But when it comes to, okay, within the work side of things, within my career, within what you want to do for building BTR, is what are those key focus areas? What does success look like at the end of the year? People certainly, I've noticed this through corporate world as well. It becomes a checklist, and something that HR kind of tells you, your manager tells you to do, and people don't come back and revisit it. And that's giving a lot of credit that they put a lot of time and focus into, how do I want to show up? What do I want to achieve throughout the year? Those getting clear on those types of things is just, it's mission critical, because then it helps you figure out what to prioritize.
Yep.
So for me, I've got to dump everything out on a piece of paper on my notes, and I can say, okay, these are the things that I have to do. It's a heck of a lot easier to say no to things. It's a heck of a lot easier to be able to go through a tough season and say, look, I am grinding 60, 70, 80 hours a week at the moment because I am building something that I am really clear and excited about in the future.
Let's actually break that down and make it simple for those to understand. If I am coaching an athlete, I'm coaching 2 athletes. One of them comes to me and says, I want to be a great runner. One of them comes to me and says, I want to qualify for a Boston Marathon. One of those is going to be much easier to coach than the other one.
Mm-hmm.
The person that vaguely says they want to be a great runner, what does that mean? Sprinter? Long distance runner? You want to finish a marathon? You want to just be able to run around the block without being out of breath? It's very vague. It's going to be hard for me to put a plan in place for them. Now, the runner who comes to me and says, I want to qualify for a Boston Marathon, there's a time to do that. There is a playbook that can help get me there. And I think it's important to define what you want, because you take entrepreneurship and I put 20 entrepreneurs in a room. One of them's going to want to be a billionaire. One of them's just going to want a Lamborghini. One of them is going to want freedom and flexibility. I cannot give a playbook to each and every one of those. That is why it starts with you. And I think in this world of social media, it's almost perpetuated this uncertainty, because all of your friends are posting what they're doing and what success looks like to them. And
everyone's posting the highlight reel.
Everyone's posting the highlight reel. And as an entrepreneur, it makes you want to be like, well, I want that. And I felt this, my first few years within the Amazon e-commerce space, before I was really focused on the company, it was like the highlight of what money being thrown at the industry. It was e-commerce. It was the Thrasio parties. It was everything. Every single night at an event, I think I was being invited to a club or party where they were dropping $30,000 on bottle service. And I was like, I kind of want to participate. I want to go buy tables like everyone else. And it was the most draining period of time in my life, because I was getting caught up in this hype of kind of what everyone else wanted for their entrepreneurial journey. And it wasn't aligned with what I wanted.
Yeah.
I was exhausted, and we all know Destaney needs 9 hours of sleep. But you can kind of start to see these themes. Corporate world's the perfect example as well. Everyone tells you that success in the corporate world is climbing the ladder. That is so generalized. What if you are a mom with 3 kids at home? What if you are wanting to be an entrepreneur? What if you are trying to run ultra marathons on the side? Climbing the corporate ladder may not be best for you. And where you're going to feel that friction, that misalignment, is when you're trying to do things that don't align with what you personally want.
Yeah. I think that that's something that I struggled with for a period of time as well. And so this career transition season that I'm in has been incredible to spend a lot of quiet time reflecting of, for me, I would goad myself into thinking that I wanted to be at the top of the block, top of the food chain. And that was what success was to me in everything. I'm incredibly proud of the promotions I've had over the years, of the value that I have driven for brands and for companies and for others, and mostly for other people and the teams that I've gotten to work with. Then I started to realize, hang on, it's more the people that I'm serving that I get more fulfillment out of. The politic and influence side of things is, to me, a necessary task that might need to occur so I can serve others better. But I realized I was getting caught up in the politicking and influence side of things for the sake of it, for, fluffing someone else's ego. And I realized, hang on, this is kind of becoming, if I take a step back and audit where my time is going, I realized a lot of the time was actually going towards something that should be maybe an ancillary part of my job, or where I should be spending time, so that the thing that actually brings me joy is sort of more of a service leadership to others, or having, tactical or strategic conversations with someone about getting into the weeds with things. Like that brings me so much joy, and I could work 100-hour weeks if that's part of it. But I realized that was maybe 10, 15% of the time that I was spending doing things. And so getting really clear on what part is bringing you joy, or what part is, for me, it was more about identify what is bringing me joy. And this is, a season in this career transition for me. But also going through seasons of, I know that this month is going to be, I know it's going to be tough, and I might not like it, but it's towards the greater good. It's towards that greater goal. And I can spin everything into, what lesson am I learning out of this too?
That's the exact, I would say, transition I was going to mention as well, is there are going to be seasons of life. I look back at, my collegiate journey of working 2 jobs and being miserable and having no mental health, no free time, nothing. But I knew that I had to get through that season of life to accomplish what I wanted. And now that I've zoomed out, it's like, as long as I know what I'm working towards, the 24 hours of bad just doesn't, it's not as painful anymore, because I know that that's what I'm going to have to go through in order to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish on the other side.
Sounds a little bit like delayed gratification.
Delayed gratification, which I know we've talked a lot about on prior episodes, and that's exactly it. So I think it's, giving yourself grace that there's going to be different seasons in life. I mean, again, work shouldn't be the focus as well. You should almost build your work environment around what you're trying to accomplish, provide for your children, provide you freedom, flexibility, travel. Define what that looks like first, what you're willing to sacrifice. If you tell me you want to be a billionaire, I'm going to tell you you're going to have to make so many sacrifices.
And are you okay with that? Because you might be, and that's totally okay. It's whatever.
Have your cake and eat it too. Sometimes it looks like it. We get that a lot. I know, oh, you guys travel so much. You guys have, such an incredible life. Like, I cried myself to sleep. Many nights in a row to get here. I made sacrifices. I cut people off. I moved. I made decisions that had negative implications, but that's what I was willing to sacrifice in order to get where I am.
Even through the seasons of travel, and again, everyone's posting their highlight reel on social media and whatnot, and so
not me flying from Bentonville to Atlanta on the plane sobbing.
Okay, I think that you're
that's the bad travel juju lately.
You need to be saged with your bad travel juju, but going through the season of, you're seeing other people's highlight reels, and how much it takes. The lack of sleep is something that is a killer for you. It's a killer for me as well. And those are things that we go through. But yes, we'll post the pictures in the south of France at Cannes, and folks are thinking you're living your absolute dream life. And we live a pretty incredible life as well, because we've had a reset in intentionality. That also doesn't mean that I'm not at every maybe family or friend event that you want to be.
We missed out on a lot as well.
We have missed out on a lot, and that's okay as long as it's intentional.
And that's the point. It's not a feel sorry for me card, but it's when you're able to identify exactly what you want, you can then build the roadmap and the playbook for it. And you can then be intentional about it. We talk about energy units a lot. If I only have 100 energy units a day, where am I going to distribute those? That is something that you need to check in with frequently. And I'm gonna show my favorite little graph. I used to have this on a sticky note on my computer. I know Day, Jess, you've seen that. I've preached this a lot. I like to say entrepreneurship is a roller coaster. At the top, you're happy, everything's great, you're popping bottles. At the bottom, you lost clients, everything sucks. Your goal as an entrepreneur, or even in life, in my opinion,
you're an entrepreneur of your own life.
Yes.
Even if you're in corporate America.
You are the one in control of your own life. Absolutely. Our goal, my opinion, should be to find this baseline, to find the middle. You can still work towards the incredible, exciting, happy things, but you don't want to get caught up by them. You don't want them to control your life. We see that a lot in our space. People get caught up with the money and the title, and they will sell their whole life, their happiness in order just to have an incredible title because they got caught up in that. And that's why you want that baseline. You know, when you have really bad days, you know that you're going to be on the up and coming because you have the map, you have the directions of where you want to go, you're intentional, but you also can't get caught up in the highs either because then something else will start controlling your life. The addiction, the travel, the ego.
Yeah.
So I think this is one of my favorites.
Well, I like that because visually it turns into something quite a tactical recommendation, a takeaway here is that those swings are pretty hectic. And if you are living from swing to swing, you think you need an entire life reset. You think you need to quit your job in corporate America and go on a vacation for 6 months in Bali. I was pretty close to that at one period. I might still
You're
go.
Like, I'm going and riding horses and
I'm going to go
analog.
Eat, Pray, Love in Italy and Bali for 6 months.
I'm like, well, you can do that, but it doesn't solve the problem.
Yes, and so tactical thing is small resets, the small check-ins that you can do. Yeah. We like to talk about a Sunday morning check-in or a monthly reflection of how did I spend my time in this past week, in this past month, in this past quarter. You did QBRs in your business. Are you doing QBRs in your life? You should be. And the biggest thing is that it's actually more about small things, small resets. I get caught up into this a lot or I'm trying to be a lot more conscious and a lot more intentional about it, to not have to think, I need a whole life reset and just press the sage everything button and start from scratch, and actually check in with myself more frequently to make sure that, okay, there's just a small misalignment that's going on over here. And maybe I'm going to keep digging and shoveling I'm going to pick up the digital shovel, if you will, and keep digging through this season. But I know that next Sunday or in a month from now, I'm going to do another check-in with myself and realize, all right, I'm starting to get a little bit too far away from that misalignment of my intention. And so much with your swings of the highs and lows, to be conscious that you're checking in with yourself of how you're showing up, where you're showing up, and is that truly aligned? Do I need to just do a small micro reset here or there?
Oftentimes it's the small micro resets that can have compounding effects later on. To your point, it's not about perfecting it. Good example for me is, I finished one of the years in the business and I had traveled 2 to 3 times every single month of the year. So I think I went on over 35 trips is what it averaged out to, 35 trips in a year. A lot of it was speaking engagements, conferences. And I looked back and I said, I cannot do that anymore. I would rather produce more LinkedIn content than hop on a plane, waste 12 hours traveling, get caught up in the event lifestyle, dehydrated, tired, talking to too many people. So I just said, I'm cutting back on events. I'm being more intentional. I want to go to an event if XYZ. That change was really small. It was just an intentional decision I made one day, but the compounding effect it's had on my digital presence, it's had on my mental health. That's all it's about. Identify what you want to accomplish. Look at your last 3 months or maybe last month, whatever time frame you want. If you want to do weekly, then great. And start saying, hey, I was a little bit too far in this direction. Let me find some balance. And when you do that over time, you're going to start adopting that habit in other areas of your life as well. You kind of start with the big things and then you're like, oh, this works. Also, I need to, do a better job of tracking my hydration levels. I need to do a better job of this. And I think it just brings some intentionality to your life, to your point.
Yeah. So we've given a couple of quick tips and tricks here and there. It's the point, I suppose, is that it's an ongoing journey, no matter where you are in your life or your career, is checking in on your alignment with your goals, with your intentions. The goals are the what do I want to do and achieve, and being really specific with those. The intentions are a lot more about the why. Why am I investing all my time and my energy? I've only got 100 energy units a day. Where am I going to invest them? And a day, a week, a month, whatever that looks like for you. But, there's a couple of good practical tips and tricks and takeaways here. Get really clear. What are your core priorities? Just 1 or 2 of them, not a list of 10. And then even from there, something that you've spoken about as well is maybe it's easier to pull together your non-negotiables list.
Yeah.
maybe it's easier to figure out these are the things that I don't want, how I want to show up. And all of these kind of compounded habits, consistency, compounded, I think really go very far to giving you the resilience to go through those tough seasons that are inevitably going to happen, no matter what they look like.
I have nothing to add.
I can't drop the mic.
Drop the mic. Please don't drop the mic. As always, thank you all so much for taking the time to listen. This Coffee Commerce Cabernet is really a passion project between Gabi and I. We have, had a lot of growth over the last few years. Our careers, I think, have provided us with a unique experience on resilience and work ethic and leadership. Mm-hmm. And we figured this would be a fun way to share everything we've learned with everyone else. So if you found any value out of this episode, please like, comment, share, send to your favorite friends. And thank you all again.
Till next time.